All right. Good morning, everyone. We will go ahead and
Recording in progress.
get started. A copy of the Open Meetings Act is located on the wall over here at the side of the chambers, and there's an automatic external defibrillator available on the back wall of the legislative chambers. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will begin with the agenda for the Douglas County Board of Equalization. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Boyle.
Here.
Commissioner Kavanaugh.
Here.
Commissioner Friend.
Here.
Commissioner Morgan.
Here.
Commissioner Rogers is present virtually but cannot act as a commissioner today. And Madam Chair.
Present. Item A, approval of the minutes of the Board of Equalization meeting held Tuesday, September 28, 2021. And item B, call for a meeting and set Tuesday, October 12, 2021 as a date for hearing on certified assessment corrections reflecting the addition of omitted property to the tax rolls or increased value on property. Is there a motion to approve A and B?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Morgan, second by Commissioner Maureen Boyle. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 5-0.
Citizen comments. Is there anyone in the chamber or on Zoom wishing to speak to the Board of Equalization about an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to resolutions. There are resolutions D, E, F, and G. Is there a motion to approve? Actually, the appeal has been stricken. We don't have a need for executive session. Does that include adjournment? Is the second okay with that?
Yes.
All right, motion by Commissioner Maureen Boyle, second by Commissioner Morgan. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 5-0.
We will move to the agenda for the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Boyle. Here. Commissioner Kavanaugh. Commissioner Friend.
Here.
Commissioner Morgan.
Here.
Once again, Commissioner Rogers is present virtually but cannot act as a commissioner today. And Madam Chair.
Present. Item A, approval of the minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held Tuesday, September 28, 2021. And item B, approval of claims submitted for payment processed through Tuesday, October 5th, 2021. Is there a motion to approve A and B? Is there a motion by Commissioner Maureen Boyle, seconded by Commissioner Morgan? Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 5-0.
Next is our consent agenda, items A through E. Is there a motion to approve consent agenda? Motion by Commissioner Maureen Boyle, second by Commissioner Morgan. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 5-0.
Recognition and proclamations. We have one resolution recognizing October as Youth Justice Awareness Month. And we'll have Kim Havakati read that resolution for us.
Sure. Under the resolution, it states, whereas the historical role of the juvenile court system is to rehabilitate youth while holding them accountable and maintaining public safety, and it is therefore better equipped to work with youth than the punitive nature of our adult criminal system. And whereas youth are distinct from adults, and these differences have been documented by national research on the adolescent brain development and acknowledged by the U.S. and state Supreme Courts, including but not limited to state and federal laws that prohibit youth under the age 19 from taking on major adult responsibilities such as voting, jury duty, and military service. And whereas youth of color and youth with disabilities, mental and behavioral health issues are disproportionately represented in our criminal and juvenile justice system. And whereas youth who are in the juvenile court system must be able to access age-appropriate services and education while remaining closer to their families and communities, all of which national research indicates reduces the likelihood of future offending. And whereas most laws allowing for the prosecution of youth as adults were enacted prior to the research studies completed by the Center for Disease Control and the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, which showed that prosecuting youth in adult court actually decreases public safety, and those youth are 35% more likely to commit future crimes than youth prosecuted in the juvenile system. And whereas youth detained or involved in the juvenile or criminal justice system should be kept in the least restrictive setting possible with family inclusion and treatment-orientated services provided. And whereas Douglas County has demonstrated a commitment to strengthening care for juveniles by partnering with the public and private sectors to create effective alternatives to detention and to develop a continuum of community and family-based services designed to serve youth and their families safely. And whereas it is our shared responsibility to ensure that all youth in Douglas County can reach their full potential. And whereas the month of October has been declared the National Youth Justice Awareness Month, now therefore be it resolved by this Board of Commissioners, Douglas County, Nebraska, that this board hereby declares the month of October 2021 as Youth Justice Awareness Month in Douglas County. And this board encourages all residents of Douglas County to consider how they can engage in positive actions that can assist our youth to reach their full potential.
All right, thank you, Kim. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Maureen Boyle, second by Commissioner Morgan. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Thanks, BJ.
Motion passes 5-0.
Citizen comments. Is there anyone in the chamber or on Zoom wishing to speak to the Board of Commissioners about an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to presentations, the first being our COVID-19 update and COVID-19 vaccination plan update presented by Dr. Lindsay Hughes. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. So this is a week of some good news, I think. Although we are still hanging out in the high transmission category for COVID. It seems that we are actually in a plateau and possibly coming down right now in cases. So our current 7-day total number of cases per 100,000 is 198. We have consistently been under 200 for the past week, which is fantastic news. Hoping to see that trend continue and see it continue to decrease as much as possible. If you look at the graph below the number here, you can see that we are still somewhat on a plateau, but there's a slight downward trend. I can't tell you for sure whether that downward trend is a true trend or if that's just kind of a temporary blip, but we'll keep our eye on that. Hopefully that is a true trend. We'll keep watching that for the next week or two, and hopefully we'll continue to see that. Seeing a downward trend would be consistent with I think what some other places have seen in terms of this particular wave. So hopefully we are seeing that as well. Looking at cases by age group, so we're looking at the most current week, which is the last bar over to the right. You can see that for a couple of weeks, we saw our pediatric and adolescent groups essentially decrease in case numbers. You know, you can kind of look at the width of that overall band, which is the green and the yellow and orange. You can see that it had decreased over a couple of weeks, and then it did bump just a little bit over, or it does seem to be going up just a tiny bit, but again, that's not necessarily a trend. That's something that we'll keep our eye on. And of course, you know, from week to week, things do tend to change just a little bit. That's consistent also with our school data. So looking at our cases within the K-12, basically cases that we're seeing within schools. Right now we're sitting at 2 per 1,000, which is just up slightly from what we saw last week. We continue to, of course, watch what's happening in the schools. We're working with them very closely to control, you know, any clusters or outbreaks that we're seeing there. And then we do continue to see higher numbers of cases that are occurring. If you look at this kind of sky blue bar, which is the 30 to 39, we saw some growth in cases there as well. Going on over to our weekly map so we can see how our cases are dispersed in the community. And that's really big. There we go. We'll go back a week. So this is about what we're looking like. This current week, of course, isn't complete, but it's looking pretty similar. If you look here, this was a week prior, last week of September. Cases are continuing to be fairly dispersed throughout the community at this point. We do continue to see cases that are popping up in our more unvaccinated. If you look at our hospital trends, those who are hospitalized do more than not tend to be the unvaccinated in our community. And this was the previous week, kind of mid-September, so you can kind of see where cases went from there. All right, and speaking of hospitalizations, we can just go to that next. So our current capacity is sitting at 82% for overall hospital capacity. That has shifted a lot higher at times over the past week. We actually hit over 90% capacity in the past week, which was very concerning. For adult ICU care, which is this blue over on this other chart to the left, the blue line on the top is actually our ICU trend. That's at 84%. That also topped 90% last week. Briefly, definitely something to be concerned about in terms of just overall capacity for any kind of acute care that's needed for people in our community. And then our ventilator usage, which is this yellow line at the bottom, has been maintaining well over 30. So in the past 24 hours, we had 35 ventilators in use. So previously, we had been in the high 20s in terms of the number of ventilators in use, and so now we're sitting in the mid 30s, fairly consistently. And of course, that's pointing to more severe disease that we're seeing, and so we definitely want to keep our eye on that. Currently, we have 5 cases of pediatric COVID that are hospitalized. We continue to work with our area healthcare providers and healthcare systems to have conversations around capacity. And they definitely continue to have conversations about how best to manage capacity, especially because it's not just a problem that we are having here in Douglas County, but really regionally and beyond. So transfers can tend to be very difficult when, even if you go beyond your community, you're not going to be able to find beds when you need them. And so that is an ongoing discussion that continues to happen. And a big part of that is staffing. We continue to have a lot of struggles with finding nurses. What would you like me to do with this? I don't know what your rules are, so there you go. Thank you. Sounds good. Yes, so we continue to just watch that very closely, and I just wanted to assure the community that those conversations in terms of capacity and staffing continue to happen. A quick update on breakthroughs. So 1.1% is the breakthrough rate that we are seeing right now, and just a reminder, what that means is that is of all of the people who have been vaccinated, this is the percentage that have gone on to have a positive test. So that is the true measure of a breakthrough, and it is currently at 1.1%. That you may see that number go up a bit as we see people with their immunity waning. Now, as we get people boosted, possibly over time that number will go back down. So as we're offering boosters, we'll have fewer people who basically are open to a breakthrough. And speaking of vaccinations, we had a little bump over the past week or two, which is really exciting for us. Most of that is due to the fact that the boosters were approved. So the fact that people are able to get that, we did certainly have interest in that and continue to have interest in the booster dose. And so we have seen people coming in for that, and that is reflected if you're looking at the summary chart. Over to the right, you can see this increase over about the last week of September or so. in doses administered. So that's what you're seeing there. Some of those, of course, are also first and second doses. And I do not have yet the ability to break out third dose, and that has to do, or third dose or booster, that really has to do with the state registry and how data is collected and kind of separated out at that level. It's a conversation that is ongoing at the state, though. So looking at residents with one dose of our eligible population, so that's our over 12, 73.3% have had one dose, which is great. Out of all of our residents, 60.7 have had one dose. I wanted to point out that our Black population continues to lag pretty significantly there at 40.3% for one dose. Residents that are fully vaccinated, 68.7 of our eligible population and 56.8 of our total population are fully vaccinated. So if you kind of think back to those numbers that I've reported over the past few weeks, you know that has gone up. It's just been a very slow incline. So we're making progress. It's just slow progress. And again, I would point out that our Black population and our Native population and our Hispanic population all are kind of lagging there. And those are issues that we are addressing with our partners in those communities. Looking at our 12 to 17-year-olds, so this is our adolescents, and I kind of just hopped over to our actually, let's go to this one. So you can see we had just a little bit of a boost over the past few days with interest there, which is actually great news. And then what we're sitting at is 62.9% with at least one dose and 56.4% of our adolescents that are fully vaccinated, which is, we're making progress. We're really happy to see that. And again, in our minoritized populations, we certainly have some work to do there. And again, we're working with our partners in those populations and our advisory committees that help us to make good decisions with those partners are helping us to figure out good ways to reach them. This is what the map looks like if you want to visualize what fully vaccinated looks like in Douglas County. It hasn't changed significantly. We still, have a lot of good vaccination rates in that Elkhorn and Bennington corridor. We still struggle across North and South Omaha toward the river, and we continue to work with our partners there. We do have some good events that are coming up and that are occurring that I think are going to help that. It's just going to be one of those things that's going to continue to take some time, I think. In terms of changes coming forth with the vaccine, so I believe that FDA is meeting sometime in the next couple of weeks. There's several meetings that are planned. There will be conversations happening around Moderna, J&J, and the 5 to 11 vaccine. So there should be a lot more information coming soon. I don't know that data has actually been sent to them from Moderna, J&J, and Pfizer regarding those vaccines, although I think maybe for the 5 to 11, they had said that they were sending EUA paperwork, so they could have that in hand. I'm not sure on the Moderna and the J&J issues, but they at least want to talk about it because I think that there's just so much conversation happening around what do we do about those who didn't get Pfizer. And so we're leaving huge swaths of the population without the option for a booster. So Moderna, I think, showed really, really good maintenance of immunity, and so it wasn't necessarily something that immediately they felt like needed to happen, but it is certainly something that needs to be considered. And of course, J&J is kind of its own topic all on its own. So there are meetings that are scheduled to be happening. We will keep our eyes and ears open for what comes out of those, and we'll report what we can out of that to you, just so that you can know what's happening, and I'll let you know what our plans are based on that. I can tell you we are doing boosters. We are doing third doses. So all of those things are available to the public through the health department. They are also available through all of the other avenues through which people have been getting vaccinated since January. So definitely all of these things that have been approved are out in the community, and we certainly continue to recommend that people get vaccinated as much as possible. And we are, of course, open to coming to provide vaccine if people are interested in that. I wanted to also remind people that we have opened up our homebound program, so we are actually able to come to homes to provide doses. We do prioritize first and second doses over boosters because those who've had that initial series do have protection. And so, you know, we have a little bit more time to get to them. But if that's a barrier for people to get, you know, childcare, to get transportation, whatever the case may be, and it would just be easier for us to come to their home, they can call our office and make an appointment, and a nurse or a paramedic will come to their home and administer the vaccine there. So we have literally, I think, 6 or 7 different options to help people get vaccinated at this point. We are also open to answering any questions people might have about the vaccine. I know that people continue to have questions and concerns about that, and so we also point people to speaking with their physician to get their questions answered. But if they'd like to speak with us as well, we're certainly open to that. So with that, I will be happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Dr. Hughes.
You bet.
Commissioner Kavanaugh?
Thanks for this. The positivity rate is what?
What are you doing? We're doing test over test. So we're sitting at about 8%.
Okay. Is that, it looks like it's plateaued there, is that about right?
Yeah, we're holding about steady on that.
Okay. The hospital rate that you showed us is really informative in that if you go back, I don't know if you've got that you could bring that up, but it showed that the hospital rate at the beginning of the pandemic, community-wide, seemed to be like 45, 50%. And then, you know, we skyrocket up to where we are now in the 80%. Is that consistent with the national average of hospital occupancies?
I think what we're seeing is fairly consistent with what we're seeing across the nation. I would say that the demographics may be a little different from place to place, but seeing the high hospitalization rates is not unique to us.
So if we were to capture a national hospital occupancy rate, it'd be in that ballpark, is that right?
I haven't compared it, but I would make an educated guess. It'd be probably close.
Okay. On the vaccination graphs, and I was trying to bring it up here on the iPad, but you had it there, where it shows the administration of the vaccine over time to all, that's the full population, right?
Uh-huh.
So we're up a little bit from where we were in the recent past, but not
Yes.
at the all-time highs, right?
No.
Okay. And I guess I'm interested in this door-to-door campaign that's going on, because I saw some information about how that was going to be done. Who's actually doing that? Who's delivering the vaccine door-to-door?
That is a good question, and I don't have a great answer for you. I know that we are collaborating with partners in the community to do that. I don't know that so we haven't necessarily started going door to door at the health department staff, but we are collaborating with other organizations in the community for that. We may not be the best ones to show up at people's doors, so we want to make sure, you know, if we're in a neighborhood that whoever is knocking on the doors is the one who's going to be the best messenger to provide the education and offer that. So I know that those conversations are certainly still ongoing and happening actively.
A lot of us are pretty familiar with going door to door, and it's key when you do that, depending on what you're doing it for, whether it's for vaccines or votes,
Yeah.
is you kind of target your efforts
Yes.
so that you're not wasting a lot of time. And in this respect, are you familiar with how that effort is being targeted to get the maximum number of doors that people are not vaccinated at?
Yeah, so initially, this was done in South Omaha through One World, and I believe, so my clinical coordinator, who is absolutely amazing, is the one who's really spearheading this effort, and she's working very closely with our advisory group with North Omaha and Charles Drew and kind of that group of partners to determine where the best places and who the best people are to carry that out. So it definitely, it's not going to be just a free-for-all, where we're just going to go park in a neighborhood and start knocking on doors, but really making a targeted approach to that.
Okay. In the vaccination graph, for the entire population, there's also, I think, a breakdown for the kids' vaccination effort. Okay. So going back, and I can't capture that, where it's very high, those two spikes very high.
Mm-hmm.
What's the time period of those?
So this would have been, I can zoom in for you just a little bit. So this would have been in May, and this would have been, when that initial, initial approval happened for probably down to like 16, and then when that was lowered to 12 is where you're seeing those spikes. So you'll probably see another one happen when they do eventually get
Sure.
the
What is
5
that
to
second
11.
one? I'm sorry.
Oh, when it was approved for 12,
Okay.
age 12.
Okay.
So
Time.
Thank you. We'll come back to this.
Commissioner Friend?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Hughes, again, thanks for all the information. It's, of course, it's valuable. But a couple questions, quick questions. They might be longer answers. I don't really know. When you showed the number of patients in hospitals currently and in ventilators, and I could have asked Dr. Boyle. I mean, how many are these hospitals tracking? How many of those folks that are in with COVID-19 that actually got admitted, and the admissions included comorbidities? Are they breaking it down to that specificity? Are they analyzing it at that level? We don't have the numbers here, but do you think they're doing it?
So the hospitals would certainly know that. It's not necessarily being reported out.
Okay.
But they would know. They know if their patients have multiple issues.
Okay, great. I'm curious, and maybe you have an opinion on this. Why do you think that those are not communicated? Because we talked about this a couple weeks ago, or comorbidities are an issue. We've known that from the very beginning. And I'm not saying, don't misread, I'm not saying that somebody couldn't just be hospitalized for COVID-19 and have major problems without comorbidities. What I'm trying to do, and it goes back to what I've been talking about from the very beginning with all this, is that we lack information. And it's not your fault. We're trying to grab as much as we possibly can.
Sure.
Would you agree? I mean, some of that would be pretty valuable. I'd like to know, I mean, how many, near the end of my father's life, if he would have contracted this, he would have passed away immediately. He had ALS. Mm. Now I bring that up because that's a comorbidity. I mean, I don't know what's going on, and I guess I'd like to know more. World doesn't revolve around me. I get it. I just think that these have been questions that I've been asking from the very beginning, and I don't think we have that type of specificity, but I'm sure we could probably track that down and talk later about it. The other question I had is I found it a little interesting, and I was wondering if you could opine on this. the breakthrough cases of 1.1%. I noticed, and it just so happens I always look at 68007 because happens to be where I live, and I go, wow, we have a high rate of cases in 68007. I also noticed that we have the highest rates of vaccination, fully vaccinated people in that particular area. Now, that's probably because of the sheer numbers of people that are moving up there, right? I mean, we're not breaking these down by, those type of percentages. Like, am I correct?
You are correct. Yeah.
Okay, so the explosion, I mean, I got a chance to talk to an interventional radiologist down at the University of Florida, and I think I might have mentioned this, but what I found very interesting is he said there are, of the 100% of the people that are hospitalized with COVID, he said 97% of those people had not been vaccinated.
Right.
So I am not, going down that road. I just found it very curious that 68007, I wouldn't call it an explosion, but we're dealing with, high numbers, and we're also talking about a bunch of folks who said, I'm going to get vaccinated. I
Yeah.
just found that interesting.
Yeah, so population definitely has something to do with that. There certainly could be some other factors coming into play there.
Of course. Yeah.
But yes, I've asked my epi
1
chief
minute.
about that in particular, because that question came up for me as well, looking, kind of looking at this map and looking at the vaccination map, like why this seems dissonant here. This seems like this shouldn't be the case. And one of the explanations is certainly just how
Yeah.
much, how big the population there is.
Okay, well, thank you, Doctor.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Maureen Boyle?
Thanks again for coming to speak and filling us in on this information. You had mentioned, this is just a point, that the hospital capacity rate decreased to about 82% from 90-ish% over the past couple of weeks. And what we have to remember is that hospitals have stopped doing things like elective surgeries. So it's not just that, so the beds are available now to treat COVID patients. So it's not necessarily that the COVID numbers are dropping as much as bed capacity is there because other types of things are not taking those beds. So just a point to make. And I agree, staffing is an issue everywhere. So, so until we are able to support our nursing staff, all our support staff, this is going to be a continued problem as far as capacity goes. Second, you mentioned that this homebound program, and just a question about that. As far as patients who have home health, is there some type of collaboration so that the Douglas County Health Department has an association or affiliation with them or a communication with them so they have access to bring those vaccines to folks who may want them?
Yeah, I believe so. That we're able to get those who truly are homebound. We have avenues for working with people to get that done. And then, in terms of the broader effort, we're partnering with the VNA, Visiting Nurse Association, for those who don't know what that is. And then paramedics in our community we have on staff who can assist with that, and others who are able to help with that as well. But yes, we have collaborations with people in our community, companies that are already providing services.
Okay, so if I have a patient who needs visiting nurses for dressing change or something like that, I can, there's a setup so that the nurse going out to their house will know that I ordered those services and they can offer the vaccine.
I'm pretty sure there is. I would need to ask Carrie about that, but I am almost positive that partnership already exists.
Okay, all right, good deal. And then the last question I have is more of an out there thing, but on there, 68% of eligible residents in Douglas County have received the vaccine. And way at the beginning, we were talking about herd immunity at about 70%. Now, granted, we're down in the 50s for the whole population. So just, if you can speak to herd immunity, whether that's relevant at this point, just because we know that the vaccine does, at least the Pfizer, does lose a little bit of its effectiveness over time.
Sure. So we're not there yet. Knowing, first of all, that we do have some waning immunity, that certainly impacts the herd immunity. And really, looking at this type of a pathogen, it's really difficult to get there if it's going to mutate and then continuously impact that herd immunity. So it's kind of a moving target that we're trying to hit in terms of herd immunity. 68.7 feels like it should be really close. The reality is it's really the 56.8, you know, when you're factoring in the fact that we have those 5 to 11-year-olds who aren't eligible yet. And honestly, you know, it's more than that. You're looking too at these 0 to 4-year-olds. So we do have cases in those little ones. In fact, I believe that there's a newborn that's been hospitalized for quite some time with several things, but COVID being one of them. So, you know, when you're talking about herd immunity, it would be great to get there, like we have gotten with polio, for instance. Polio is something that's pretty stable. COVID, really, it really isn't. It mutates pretty quickly. We have a very large pool of people, you know, within which it can still mix and mutate. So I think we still have a really long way to go before we can really start even thinking about any level of herd immunity.
Great, all right, thank you.
Commissioner Kavanaugh?
Thank you. And just to kind of recap a couple of high points. So we are at 56.8% fully vaccinated of the Douglas County population. Yes?
Correct.
Okay. And we've experienced 83,820 positive cases since the onset of the pandemic. I'm just reading off
Yes,
the dashboard.
that is correct.
And of our population, over the same period, we have had 796 deaths due to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, you know, we're making this steady progress on the vaccination thing, but as Dr. Boyle has indicated, I mean, getting to the herd immunity or whatever that gold standard is the name of the game. It might be good, you know, going forward, if we could get some maybe projections, estimates based on what we're doing now, which I think is good. This door-to-door thing is a magnificent way to increase the vaccination of the entire population. So that we have some idea, we can give, you know, residents some idea of a date. I mean, when possibly a time frame could we see that herd immunity coming on? I mean, I commend you for the steady progress that we've been making. But boy, it's a long, tough slog here, and everybody is really interested in how much longer does this go on. So I don't know if that's possible. I mean, numbers are available, and certainly we could do some projections, I guess. I don't know if you do that kind of thing.
Well, as my chief of finance has told me on several occasions, my magic 8-ball or my crystal ball to predict the future is on back order, which is really unfortunate. I would love to be able to give you that answer. I think that there are so many variables at play, including human behavior, really the behavior of this virus. I mean, we all thought we had this thing knocked back in June. I mean, when I came here on July 6th, we were at like 3 cases per 100,000 or something. I mean, it was so low, and you know, we were thinking, okay, this is good. We're at the end, and then we were not at the end. And so there are so many things that come into play when we're talking about what date can we project for people to have an end date. We can certainly watch what's happening in other countries that seem to be on, that let us kind of predict the future a little bit for what might happen here. We also have to take into account all of the different things that are different here from everywhere else. Human behavior in the United States being one of those things that's a little different from other places sometimes. You know, looking at whether people are going to continue to be vaccinated, looking at whether immunity will stick around long term, what kinds of other medical advancements might be made between now and then. Merck announced a medication that they say is safe and effective to treat COVID. I'm not saying one way or another whether that's the case. The FDA is still, needing to review that information and make a ruling there. But, we have so many things that have to happen before we can tell the public with any certainty, hey, this thing is knocked. We've got this thing taken care of. Certainly, we're going to continue to try to make at least short-term predictions. I think that we're probably going to get to the point where it's endemic, where we're able to maintain our hospital capacity, our economy, our education system. We're going to be able to maintain all of that at a consistent level without having to necessarily, go into this stop everything mode.
Let me ask just one final question. The kids, and we all have kids in the family, or school-age kids that are not able to get vaccines now.
Yeah.
You mentioned that FDA was meeting in the next couple of weeks. Do we have some kind of estimate of when the kids will be able to be vaccinated, the young kids?
Yeah, I'm hearing anywhere between Halloween and Thanksgiving. So certainly once they've met, hopefully I'll have maybe something closer, a more specific date to give you. But that's what we continue to hear.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Hughes. I have one question on those breakthrough cases.
Sure.
Do we know of those breakthrough cases which vaccine the individuals have gotten and where we're seeing the majority of the breakthroughs?
We do not, but that is something that I have actually asked for because that's something I'm very interested in knowing about as well. So when I do have that, I can see what the best way to communicate that might be.
Okay.
But I have asked for that.
All right, thank you.
That.
All right. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Luis?
Luis Jimenez, 2709 Dewey Avenue. I moved to a new apartment. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I'm also curious about projections about when the things are going to wrap up with the virus. I did read that March of next year could be the time where the numbers are insignificant regarding public health. That's depending on a lot of variables, obviously. One of them is the virus not mutating again, or the variant, a new variant coming in. And if you think about it, last year when there was another spike, it was in early September, and that was when the season was changing back in 2020, and people were going indoors and gathering. But now this time around, the season is changing, but as you saw, there's 56.8% of people in Douglas County that are vaccinated, so that's a big difference from last year, and I hope that that's an indication that that projection where in the middle of spring that the pandemic will subside. And I appreciate what the public health department is doing. I think the going door to door is a good effort. It kind of reminds me of what Dr. Adipur was doing with the pop-up vaccinations, and she was like all about getting about 20 people at least when they showed up. So if there's coordination and communication and going door to door, I think that's a good effort to counter misinformation, which is another variable or another factor that I think caused this pandemic to keep dragging on. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, we will move on to our next presentation is an informational presentation by OPPD representatives regarding their energy conservation and renewable energy projects. Commissioner Maureen Boyle, this is your agenda item.
So a couple months ago, I've engaged OPPD, actually with my dad too, to just look at ways that, just products or projects or programs that OPPD has to help with things like climate change or energy efficiency. And so as part of that, they came and spoke to us about just different types of options they have to really improve those things for not just the county, but just the entire community. So after hearing that, I thought it'd be really valuable to have them just come and present some of the things that they're doing, which is really, to me, on the forefront of providing conscientious ways to deliver energy. So I would like them to speak, and then down the road, potentially have them look really hard at what they can do for the county in particular, just because some of the things they say are innovative, and at the end of the day, I think can save taxpayer dollars. So with that, I'd like to have OPPD team come up and tell us what you got.
Thank you, Commissioner Boyle. Michaela Valentine, Government and Community Relations Manager for OPPD, and I have with me today Janae Reese, who is a Senior Account Executive for OPPD. She's also a chemical engineer, and we have engineers that lead all of our large accounts, such as Douglas County. So she's going to tell you a little bit about some pathways that are potential pathways for Douglas County today, and we are happy to answer any questions.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Janae Reese, and I'm your Senior Account Executive. I am here today to discuss energy efficiency and sustainability services available from OPPD, as well as our customer focus and community initiative. The agenda for today is to give an overview of OPPD, our Pathway to Decarbonization program, our building optimization products, electric vehicle opportunities, as well as renewable energy services. OPPD is a public power utility that serves 855,000 customers in 13 counties, including Douglas County. Our mission is to provide affordable, reliable, and environmentally sensitive energy services to our customers. Our rates are well below the regional and national averages. We are in the top quartile of reliability metrics, and we are leading the way of renewables. Currently, OPPD generates 2,691 megawatts of power for our customers. The power that is created comes from many fuel sources, including coal, wind, natural gas, fuel oil, hydroelectric, solar, and landfill gas. In 2020, 38% of our retail sales came from renewable energy. The slide in front of you today shows our renewable portfolio. We have 972 megawatts of wind generation, 5 megawatts of community solar in Fort Calhoun, and 6.3 megawatts of generation from landfill gas. The Elk City Station is located at the Pheasant Point landfill. OPPD uses methane and other gases produced by the decomposing trash to generate renewable energy. We are also adding up to 600 megawatts of utility solar, including an 81 megawatt solar array in Utan, which will be online in 2023. Next, I will talk to you about OPPD's Pathway to Decarbonization program. In order to meet our commitment to be environmentally sensitive to our ratepayers, OPPD has committed to net zero emissions by 2050. We have initiated the Pathway to Decarbonization program in order to meet our net zero carbon goal. The Pathways to Decarbonization program has 4 separate projects: customer focus, community, energy portfolio, and internal operations. The Energy Portfolio Project and the Internal Operations Project focus on areas where we have direct control, such as our generation portfolio, OPPD's facilities, and how we operate our fleet and our employees. These are areas where we can reduce our greenhouse emissions internally as a company. The customer and community projects focus on OPPD partnering with our customers within our communities to reduce emissions. These are the opportunities I'd like to focus on today. As part of our community and customer decarbonization programs, we completed an analysis of how OPPD could lead and partner with our customers to reduce emissions. The analysis revealed 4 opportunity areas where OPPD is positioned to lead change: building optimization and energy efficiency, accelerating the electric vehicle transition, supporting distributed generation, as well as addressing the water energy nexus. The last bullet there relates to energy use with the pumping, processing, distributing, and treating of water for public consumption. The more water that we use as a community, it requires more electricity. So OPPD is working with MUD to develop opportunities to reduce water consumption and use in our territory. Next, I will talk about building optimization and energy efficiency. The first area of focus for our customers would be building optimization and energy efficiency. The greenest energy is the energy that is never used. The first and most cost-effective step towards net zero consumption for Douglas County and any of our customers is to increase energy efficiency, and the ECO 24/7 program is one of the best ways to do that. The ECO 24/7 acronym stands for Energy Commissioning and Optimization Program. It is our most popular program. Typically, this program offers 20 to 50% whole building energy savings and has a simple payback of 2 to 4 years. Every project focuses on improving and maintaining building comfort, which is paramount to maintaining energy savings. An ECO 24/7 project may include minor hardware upgrades, but it mainly includes system optimization through custom control strategies and algorithms. Since Douglas County recently upgraded their HVAC systems at both the correctional facilities and the health center, this is an optimum time to implement a project. After completion of an ECO 24/7 project, many buildings have attained Energy Star status. ECO 24/7 projects also maximize custom rebates where OPPD pays our customers $500 per kilowatt of summer peak demand reduction. For the ECO projects, OPPD offers a free initial assessment where we will review your energy use, expected demand reduction, and the payback. We will then complete a study if needed. If we did Douglas County, we wouldn't need to do a study. And then next, if you want to move forward, OPPD will implement the project turnkey. Next, we'll talk about how OPPD is supporting the electric vehicle conversion. Right now, we are offering electric vehicle rebates for our customers. We are offering a $2,500 commercial fleet rebate after the purchase or lease of a new car or light truck electric vehicle for commercial use and purchase. These rebates are available to customers who install and register a ChargePoint charging station. We have 50 rebates available. We also have 5 $4,500 commercial fleet rebates available for medium and heavy trucks. OPPD is supporting our customers becoming more sustainable through the development of an EV transition plan. During this high-level planning phase, we can help customers identify long-term infrastructure needs. We can also help our customers review and identify opportunities to convert vehicles to electric and create budgetary estimates. If customers are ready to install infrastructure, OPPD offers turnkey installation. Next, we will talk about renewable energy. For renewable energy, we have 3 different solar options in our service territory. This includes customer-owned generation, community solar participation, and utility-scale solar. The first option is customer-owned generation. The customer is responsible for the installation and maintenance of the panels. OPPD offers to provide turnkey installation for our customers if they want to pursue this option. If our customers do not want to own and maintain panels yet want to support renewable energy, another potential option would be community solar. For community solar, OPPD would be responsible for maintaining the solar facility panels. We would offer ratepayers the opportunity to subscribe to shares of energy produced. This program allows customers to offset their own usage with renewable energy beyond OPPD's blended generation portfolio, which today includes coal, natural gas, hydro, and wind. We currently have one community solar farm in Fort Calhoun, which was incredibly successful, and the shares sold out in less than 2 months. The project remains full today. And then the last option I'm going to talk to you today about would be utility scale solar. For utility scale solar, OPPD still manages the facility similar to OPPD's current generation fleet and community solar. The utility scale solar is used as incremental generation to meet load growth in our service territory, supporting OPPD's capacity, reliability, and resiliency similar to our other generating resources. So, on behalf of OPPD, I'd like to thank all of you for the opportunity to discuss OPPD's services, to partner with you, potentially, and our other customers on energy efficiency and sustainability as we all strive to achieve environmentally sensitive goals.
Thank you. We have a couple of lights. Commissioner Kavanaugh?
Thank you. Thanks for this.
You bet.
And picking up on Commissioner Boyle's mention that her father joined in her request for this, I'm channeling Mike Boyle when I ask you to send us a hard copy of what you've just gotten. Your dad would always want a hard copy, and I do too. So if you could, that's helpful. The percentage of power currently generated by OPPD using renewable energy generation is what?
38%.
And I heard you say that there's a percentage by 2050 that you have as a target target for zero carbon emissions. What's that percentage? Is that 100%?
Zero. We want to have net zero emissions, so no emissions whatsoever by 2050.
Okay.
So,
would that be converting to 100% renewable generation?
I don't think they really know for sure how they're going to do it. We've set that goal, and I think we're still determining how we'll get there. We're looking at different technology options, including renewable carbon captures, another area, batteries. We're just continuing to look at our options, but we know that that's where we want to be.
Sure. So I think, the international kind of target that's been set by the Paris Accords and others is to get to somewhere in that ballpark by 2030. Do we have a projection where OPPD will be in 2030?
I don't know that answer. Do you know that? I can find out, though.
Okay, thank you. Well, that's great, and commend the utility on the progress being made. We're all in this together, and so the faster we get there, the better. But thanks for this update. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Maureen Boyle?
Once again, thanks for presenting this information. And I just want to make the points that in Douglas County, and just what they provide, OPPD provides to bigger organizations like an entity like ours is the ways to save money for taxpayers in our situation would be looking at building optimization for energy sources, and that's not the cool thing like putting up solar panels or any wind type of technology, but that's really where the money is. And so I know that you've been working with Jerry Leahy with our building services already to kind of go over where those efficiencies can happen. Second, the electric vehicle fleet, that's something I think we should be looking at some point too. And again, that's something I think that the general public can jump on the back of as well, just because it's something that we're all familiar with. And then the third thing, again, is going to the renewable energy sources like solar. So those were the three big takeaways that I took, is that building, to make sure our buildings are running efficiently, to look at our electric vehicle fleet, and then to look at solar and wind power as renewable energy sources as well. And so the bottom line is, I also want to point out, OPPD is a public utility, and a lot of electricity around the country is actually privately held. So I really feel like we have piece of gold here with OPPD, and just the way they're always forward-thinking and the quality of the folks that I've been dealing with. I mean, here we have a chemical engineer who's our account rep. I mean, who gets that? And so, so bottom line is, I commend the high quality that we get out of, that way with a very good conscience about cost, and really trying to make sure that everybody's energy needs are met. So bottom line is, this is more not asking you questions as much as saying that I would like to see if we can do something down the road to really maximize these efficiencies, not only because it's the right thing to do for the climate, but what it boils right down to, it's actually can produce a cost savings for taxpayers. So if we make the county run more efficiently based on the energy needs. So that's my 2 cents, and I really appreciate you coming and filling us in today.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner.
Oh,
Well, go ahead.
I just wanted to let you know that we offer this service, these eco and the energy efficiency projects, to all of our large customers. And the reason we do that is our service territory, there's more and more customers coming in, and so we need to provide more and more power for these people. If we can find ways to reduce usage, especially with our large customers, then that means that we don't have to build new base load, and it keeps our capital costs lower, which means that it keeps our rates lower for everyone in our service territory, including Douglas County. And that's why we offer this service. So it will save you money, and it saves OPPD money in the long run.
Great. Commissioner Friend.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Janae, I got an opportunity, Commissioner Boyle, Dr. Boyle, gave me the opportunity to sit in a previous explanation and presentation, and it was great. I mean, I echo my colleagues' sentiments. I would also, I don't sit on the OPPD board, and I just a statement. I'm always careful and wary as things move forward because they require infrastructure. And as we get further down the road here, and these things the OPPD board hammers these things out with management, it'll be very interesting to see what the cost structure would include, right, Janae? I mean, because years ago, the ethanol industry grew, and it grew on the back of subsidization. I mean, that's what happened. Farmers loved it because they were able to sell their corn, and the public loved it, and we loved it because it actually reduced emissions, right? I mean, you weren't using as much petroleum. The problem is it's very expensive to create ethanol, and when you do and you get done, the only way that somebody can end up affording it is if you subsidize it. So I guess I'm not really ringing a bell and trying to, get all kinds of attention. As time goes on here, I'd like to see what the type of strategy that OPPD has for the infrastructure and the transportation of energy that is very expensive. The infrastructure is expensive. It's not, the ratepayers are there, they're staring at it, and they say, 0 emissions by 2050. I'll be long gone by then. I'm sure you guys will be happy about that. But by 2050, 0 emissions means that we've spent an awful lot of money. So I guess as time goes on here, I'd like to see those numbers. It's just a statement. I mean, I'm not saying we made a mistake with ethanol. I'm just saying the devil's in the details, right? And then you're an engineer. I mean, we could go have a cup of coffee and talk about it. But I'm always wary when we try to. Never mind. I stand down.
Commissioner.
Thank you for the time. If you want to comment on that, by all means. If you feel like you even need to.
I understand your comment, and OPPD's mission is to provide safe, reliable, affordable, environmentally sensitive energy services to our customers. So we are always looking at ways to make sure we're balancing those 3 areas. So we need to be resilient, we need to make sure your power turns on, we need to keep our rates low, and we need to be environmentally conscious. So we continue to do that every day.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's right. He must have partied too hard last night. All right, with that, there's no other lights. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move on to committee discussions. The first is just our budget report as presented. No other items. Next is community services. There is a reallocation of 2021-22 Visitor Improvement Grant Award for Durham Museum. This is just to add another exhibit with the existing funds. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Maureen Boyle, seconded by Commissioner Friend. Please vote.
Motion passes 5-0.
Weekly, under Human Services, weekly personnel report as presented, and no legislative items at this time. The Douglas County offices will be closed Monday, October 11th in observance of Columbus Day. And due to Columbus Day, the deadline for submitting items for the October 12th preliminary agenda is Tuesday, October 5th at 3 p.m. And the deadline for submitting items for the October 12th final agenda is Friday, October 8th at 9 a.m. We do have need for an executive session for labor negotiations and legal. Is there legal advice? Is there,
Second.
okay. Motion by Commissioner Morgan, second by Commissioner Friend. Please vote.
Motion passes 4-0. Commissioner Kavanaugh is absent.
I'm sorry? Oh, okay.
Recording stopped.
Could have been 10 minutes.
Motion to reconvene and adjourn passes. 4 commissioners voting yes. Mr. Mike Friend is absent. We are adjourned at 11:44.